What is up, guys, and welcome to another episode of my HLTV Fantasy. Today we are looking at the Shanghai Major 2024 NA RMR. So yes, it's gonna be the first episode for this upcoming major. I'm actually super excited for this major. Interested to see what the teams are that actually do well here. And even the RMR process is always interesting because we do get some surprising results usually of some teams making it who you would not expect, and of course the opposite as well. Um, this is my Blast World Final team. I had this nagging thought that Navi might not do well there, just because getting to a lot of finals in a row doesn't leave you a lot of time to relax between tournaments. And of course, the major is the most important event. So if they had to do badly at an event, I think this is the best one to do it at. Spirit players doing fine. And of course G2 winning the event. Top 30% for this lineup is completely okay for me. Like 3 of my 5 players are negative, but I still got top 30%. Can't be too unhappy with that. I'll also show you what I cooked up for the Asia RMR, because that fantasy is also already available. Because the Asia RMR is actually starting day after tomorrow, or tomorrow depending on when you watch this. I just went with Mongols and FlyQuest because they feel like by far the easiest picks to go for. I mean, Mongols absolutely has to go like 2-0-ish in this bracket, and then also FlyQuest have a pretty favorable draw of the bracket, and I have faith in Ins. Of course, Alistair questionable as a pick, but he's like the cheapest player on that team, and he's the AWPer, and the opposition is very, very poor, so I can at least hope that he puts up some numbers there. And then we have Sceneri, who was like 184k from Drillas, because I don't know the Asia scene that well, but I did listen to some podcast where people who are more knowledgeable about Asian CS than me, and were kind of predicting what's going to happen in this event. And at least one of them said that he expects Drillas to be the number 3 team to make it. Of course, as they have a lot of European players, I guess that kind of makes sense that they would do well at an European at an Asian event. I mean, with that European core, which is, of course, look, you can have your opinions about whether or not that's fair, but it is what it is. And I do think Sceneri is a pretty decent pick at that price point, at least potentially. Yeah, enough about that. Let's go to the Asia, from the Asia to the Americas RMR. I'll use this kind of bracket predictor tool here to take a look at some of the matchups and what I expect. I'm not extremely knowledgeable about this scene either, the NA scene. Of course, I know the biggest teams and some of the slightly lower tier teams, but I can't say that I know Crew Esports or Case too hard. I know that Red Canids is like the Coursera team, and I do know some of the players on Nouns. But honestly, I would say like Furia and Team Liquid really favored, especially Liquid should, like, if Liquid don't make it pretty cleanly through this bracket, I think it's pretty pretty bad omen for them. Furia, I'm not that convinced. I would say Pain is one of those teams. I would say like Pain is my second favorite to just make it through, just a seeding thing of who's gonna play against who, and who gets to go like 3-0, for example. But I would probably go Pain personally alongside Liquid in a fantasy draft. I'm trying to think about what I want to pick, but I think that makes a decent amount of sense. I could see going for MIBR. It's just that they have the 7th seed. They do have potentially one of the easiest first matchups in Crew Esports. But then even if they win, who do they play? Or who are they predicted to play? They're predicted to play Team Liquid second up. So they might have a tighter, tougher route to make it through to the major, just based on the seeding, than a team like Pain, who might be playing like a 9Z or a Red Canids next. So just seeding wise, I would say, like, of course, if you want to go for just the best seeds, probably best to go like Furia Liquid. But for me, I just like the Pain project a lot more than that of Furia. M80 is a team to consider. I'm not that high on complexity. I feel like they haven't impressed in most events too hard. But of course, we know that there's a lot of individual skill there, like an Elige popping off can always do things. Halzer can be fine. We see JT sometimes have these pop-off events, and of course in the NA RMR you would still expect complexity to make it through, but I'm not sure if they're gonna go like 3-0, 3-1, or maybe even just 3-2. Some of the most picked players, unsurprisingly, 4 out of the 5 players here are Liquid players, and then there's also a lot of Pain focus, and then JT kind of a popular 5th probably. Yeah, I guess this just shows that a lot of people are thinking similarly to me. I can't blame them for that. I think Pain players also were pretty fairly priced. So we have like Snow at 195, Biguzera at 204 looks very, very potentially good. I probably wouldn't go towards these more expensive Pain players because I just see this as a very, like, just a decent overall team where all the players can definitely show up. Yeah, I think Furia, just the pricing is not quite it for me. Like, of course, you could go for one of these teams. The ratings are probably a bit deflated from playing some higher tier opposition in comparison to some of these lower tier teams here. Let's say like Nithon, or maybe not Nithon actually, but some of these stats might be a bit inflated just based on who they're playing. So be careful with that. M80, I think this is slightly too expensive for my taste. I know Sin, I believe, was very good in... Might have been the last majors in a RMR where Sin was very good as a pick. But I think he's a lot more expensive this time around. If I remember correctly, it might have been a different event where he was very cheap still because of like his stats from Big. And then he was a very good pick for the M80 squad. Because he had just come into playing in American events. I think completely fine to go for some of these MIBR players, at least for these prices as well. Like, we have pretty high expectations for Lukauzi, safe for 201k, very decent. Insani is of course like the most highest fragging player on MIBR, but that's also a very hefty price, so be careful with that. Personally, I'm just gonna stick to my guts and go towards the Liquid and Pain picks, probably. I just think someone like these kinds of players are so capable against this tier of opposition. I wonder if Ultimate might have one of those events, because like if you look at Ultimate stats, of course, like past 3 events have been really poor for him. Whereas like the events before that were very good, so it looks like he's in a pretty bad slump currently. Or he might have just been figured out, might have just been kind of a honeymoon period for him, and now he's just back to what you would expect from him. I think it's a bit too risky of a pick for me, but I wouldn't fault you for going for that. I think honestly it might be another Yekindar plus JKS situation, or maybe it is kind of a Twists or Naf on top of a JKS or Yeki. How bad have Yeki's stats been lately? They've also been so poor, whereas JKS has been completely okay. He's always so consistent. It's difficult. I'll try and see if we can make like a... I kind of want to pick Twists to some extent. It's weird. Or maybe I do go for Ultimate. What is the tier of opposition Ultimate has played against here? Because that actually does matter a fair amount. They have been playing against... He's been struggling against like the best of the best teams. Like they're playing Spirit, Phase, Vitality, G2, Navi. That's the opposition he's been playing against. When he plays against like a Complexity, he's still playing fine here or here. VP, overall rating pretty good. Ends. So maybe it's just a matter of like Liquid not doing as well against the higher tier opposition currently. So maybe this is correct then. And honestly, might just be Kawes, no. I do like all three of the popular pain picks. Also check like, I mean, it's hard to avoid going for some of the most expensive, most popular players. I think I want to go for like an MIBR player as my fifth. I'm thinking of Safe. I think that might be the guy to go for here. But if we go Ultimate and Yeki, then Safe and Kawes do get Biguzera, you do. So like this looks very decent to me. I mean, there's a lot of question marks. It's a very risky lineup, even though like Yekindar and the Ultimate are amongst the most picked players. We also know that they have been struggling a lot. But again, like if Liquid do well, I would expect them to do well as well. And then these three players I'm pretty happy with. You can go with headshots on Kawes. I think role-wise this is gonna work out very nice. I mean, this seems pretty obvious. Headshot roll, he's got a high headshot percentage. One of the main reasons to pick him as well, I would say, is that very high headshot percentage. Yeki probably on entry duty, 3849. Might be actually eco-friendly as well. But I think it's I'd rather go with entry, just expecting him to do well and actually get those entries. That's kind of the question always. You have double AWP set up here as well, so one of them, yeah, I was thinking like Ultimate probably plays fairly high amount of AWP, so I'm probably gonna go with that. I think that's part of Liquid's game plan, definitely, is actually using the AWP a lot on Ultimate. They're using a lot of resources to have him on that weapon, so it makes sense to me to go for that. This is a bit more interesting. Maybe it's just Camper. Hoping he's Safe is a pretty safe player, if you want to put it that way. So I would, yeah, that makes sense to me. There's no great role on him, but if MIBR do decently here, I would expect him to do so as well. Biguzera also a bit interesting. It might be leader, or is it might be attacker actually? Yeah, I'm gonna go attacker and just hope that he can farm up some T sides as well. It's a risk. There's a lot of risk in this lineup. I don't know even what it would be an unrisky lineup. I think you would go for like JKS, maybe Twists, probably towards JT, probably still Pain, I would say. It's not that risky, but there's I don't feel comfortable with these players because they have been so poor over the last events. But this is a very different kind of event, has to be said. NA RMR is not the same as these events, these tournaments that Liquid have been playing. These are the highest of highest tier opposition, whereas this is definitely not. So hoping that that actually matters here. It's a best of one start, if I'm not. Yeah, it's actually 2 rounds of best of ones. Yeah, right. Yeah, this is gonna be one of those cases where I actually don't put on boosters on stream or on video. I have to actually think about it a fair amount. Kind of just calculate when I should use which booster on which player. If it was just 1 round of best of ones, I could just throw on some of the lower picked boosters. But yeah, you should check the link in the video description. There's gonna be a link to my lineup, and there you can see the boosters. But I'm not gonna record myself going through the process of picking which booster is put on which player for which game. But yeah, if you enjoy this kind of content, please remember to leave a like and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.